quiet town at the bottom of the San Francisco Bay. Flat streets, 1950s ranch houses with 2-car garages, the kind of place a school teacher could once afford. And then you look at the price tag on one of those plain little homes, and it says $2.8 million. This is Cupertino, California. It is the home of Apple. It is one of the richest small cities in America, and more than 6 out of every 10 people who live here are Asian. Families who flew across an ocean, bought a modest house on an ordinary street, and quietly turned this corner of Silicon Valley into one of the most expensive patches of land on planet Earth. But here's the strange part. The men who actually run this valley, the ones worth not millions but tens and even hundreds of billions of dollars, you would walk right past them. They wear the same fleece vest as everyone else. They drive themselves to work. Some of them still eat at the same diner where they once washed dishes for a living. This is Asian Dynasty, from the chip designer worth $1 billion who almost no one outside this valley can name, all the way up to a man worth more than $200 billion who built the most valuable company on earth in a Denny's booth. This is the real story of Cupertino's billionaires and the quiet empires hiding behind those ordinary front doors. Because to understand Cupertino, you have to understand a kind of wealth that refuses to look like wealth. It does not build marble palaces with gold gates. It buys the house in the right school district and pours everything else back into the next company. By the end of this video, you will see exactly what that wealth looks like, where it actually lives, and why the loudest mansion on the street is almost never the richest house. And the higher we go on this list, the more staggering the numbers get. Let us start with the town itself. 30 years ago, Cupertino was an ordinary Santa Clara County suburb, orchards turning into subdivisions, a new computer company called Apple putting down roots. The houses were simple single-story ranch homes, and for a while, you could buy one on a normal salary. Then the money came. Wealthy and ambitious families from Taiwan, mainland China, India, and Korea began moving into Cupertino, not for the houses, but for the schools. Cupertino's public schools, and one in particular, Monte Vista High, became famous across Asia as a launching pad into the best universities in the world. And in America, school district lines are drawn onto a map, so the address became the prize. The result is one of the most extreme housing markets anywhere on the planet. By 2010, Cupertino was already about 63% Asian, and in the neighborhood around Monte Vista High, that number climbs to roughly 70%. The income here is staggering. The per-person income recently sat around $107,000, and Cupertino has been ranked among the 10 wealthiest cities in the entire United States, and the homes show it. The median house in Cupertino's main zip code recently crossed $2.8 million, and in the Monte Vista neighborhood, the typical home runs past $3.3 million. Real estate agents here will tell you something that sounds insane until you understand it. Two nearly identical houses, a single block apart, can differ in price by hundreds of thousands of dollars, purely because of which side of a school boundary line they sit on. That is not a housing market anymore. That is a bidding war over a future. And Cupertino is just the doorway. Spread out across the valley in towns like Los Altos Hills, Saratoga, Palo Alto, and Atherton sit the people that money was really chasing. So let us meet them, counting up from the merely rich to the almost unimaginable. Number 5 could redesign the silicon brain inside almost every computer on Earth, and you have never heard his name. He runs one of the most important American companies of our time, and yet he is the quietest billionaire in this entire valley. Number 5 is Lip Bhutan. He was born in Malaysia in 1959 and raised in Singapore, an ethnic Chinese kid who came to the United States for school and never went home. For 12 years, he ran a company called Cadence Design Systems out of San Jose. You have almost certainly never bought anything from Cadence. But here is the thing. Cadence makes the software that engineers use to design computer chips. Almost every advanced chip in the modern world is, in a sense, drawn using tools from companies like his. That quiet, invisible work made Lip Bhutan a fortune of roughly $1 billion. In 2025, he was named the chief executive of Intel itself, one of the most storied names in American technology. And still, if you saw him in line for coffee in Palo Alto, you would have absolutely no idea. That is the Cupertino model in its purest form. The money is real, the performance is not. And from here, the list only gets bigger. Number 4 built his empire on a single unglamorous box, the kind of machine that hums in a data center where no customer will ever see it. And for 30 years, almost nobody noticed. Then artificial intelligence arrived, and overnight, the world needed millions of his boxes. Number 4 is Charles Liang. He came to America from Taiwan, and in 1993, he and his wife, Chu Chu Liu, who everyone calls Sarah, started a company in San Jose called Supermicro. They built computer servers, the powerful machines that run the internet behind the scenes. For decades, it was a solid, unspectacular business. Then the AI boom hit, and it turned out that Supermicro made exactly the kind of servers that AI needs. In 2024, the surge in demand pushed Charles Liang onto the Forbes billionaires list for the very first time, with a fortune that peaked around $6 billion. Think about that. A man who spent 30 years building servers in a San Jose office park, suddenly worth billions, almost in the blink of an eye. His wealth swings wildly with his company's stock, but the lesson is pure Silicon Valley. The boring box in the corner of the room was the gold mine all along. And our next subject took a far more famous road to get here. Number 3 helped name the front door to the entire internet. Before Google, before the smartphone in your pocket, his website was how a generation of people first found their way online. Number 3 is Jerry Yang. He was born in Taipei, Taiwan, and came to San Jose as a young boy, barely speaking English. He worked his way to Stanford University, and there, in 1994, he and a friend built a simple directory of websites. They gave it a goofy name. They called it Yahoo. Within a few years, Yahoo was one of the most valuable companies in the world, and Jerry Yang was worth billions. Today, his fortune sits at roughly $3 billion, and he lives in Los Altos Hills, one of those hidden valley towns where the homes disappear behind hedges and oak trees. But here is the part that fits this valley perfectly. Jerry Yang did not retire to a yacht. He became an investor, quietly funding the next generation. Through his firm, he put early money into companies you use every day, including a little video startup called Zoom, which brings us to the man who built it. Number 2 was rejected by the United States 8 separate times before they finally let him in. 8 visa applications, 8 rejections. He kept applying anyway, and the company he eventually built would, for a strange few months, connect almost the entire human race. Number 2 is Eric Yuan. He grew up in Shandong, China, the son of 2 geological engineers. He saw the early internet and became obsessed with the idea of video calling, so he could see his girlfriend who lived 10 hours away by train. It took him 8 tries to get an American visa. He finally arrived in 1997, barely speaking English, and worked his way up through the tech industry until, in 2011, he left a comfortable job to start his own company. He called it Zoom. Then in 2020, the world locked down, and overnight Zoom became how the planet went to work, to school, to weddings, and to funerals. Eric Yuan's net worth exploded into the tens of billions of dollars, at one point sitting around $16 billion. And yet, by every account, he is one of the most grounded billionaires in the valley. He drives a Tesla. He lives quietly in the Santa Clara Valley. He has said, more or less, that beyond a certain point, the money stopped making him happier, and that what he cares about now is the work. A man worth more than the entire budget of some countries, who still sounds like your most humble coworker. That is the stealth wealth of this valley in one person. And now, the top of the mountain. Number 1 is worth more than everyone else on this list combined, several times over. He is, by some counts, one of the 7 richest human beings alive. He runs the most valuable company on Earth. And as a teenager, he cleaned toilets and bus tables at a Denny's. Number 1 is Jensen Huang. He was born in Tainan, Taiwan in 1963 and came to America as a child. His first job in this country was at a Denny's diner, washing dishes and clearing plates. In 1993, in a booth at that very chain of restaurants, he and 2 friends sketched out an idea for a company that would build a new kind of computer chip. They called it Nvidia. For most of its life, Nvidia was known mainly for the chips that made video games look beautiful. But it turned out those same chips were perfect for one other thing: training artificial intelligence. And when the AI revolution arrived, Nvidia became the single most important company in the world. Jensen Huang's net worth climbed past $200 billion, placing him among the wealthiest people who have ever lived. So where does a man worth $200 billion live? Not in a 1,000-acre fortress. He owns a roughly $7 million estate in Los Altos Hills, about 15 minutes from his old headquarters, plus a home in San Francisco and property in Hawaii. For most of the people on this list, that is a rounding error. He is still famous for wearing the same black leather jacket nearly every day. The richest dynasty in this valley is led by a man who started in a diner and never really left the kitchen behind. So look at the pattern: Tan, Liang, Yang, Yuan, Huang. 5 men born in Taiwan, China, and Malaysia, who arrived in America with almost nothing and ended up holding a combined fortune in the hundreds of billions. And almost none of them live the way you would expect. Here is what Cupertino really teaches you, and it is not about marble or gold. The loudest mansion on the street, the one with the gates and the fountains, is very often money that was parked here from somewhere else, money trying to look like success. The truly staggering wealth in this valley does the opposite. It hides. It buys the ordinary house in the extraordinary school district. It wears a fleece vest and drives itself to work. It pours every spare dollar, not into a bigger house, but into the next company, the next chip, the next idea. Because the people who built this place learned something the rest of us are still catching up to. Out here, a mansion is just a thing you own, but a company that changes the world, that is something you become. And in Cupertino, that has always been worth more than any palace. So which of these 5 surprised you the most? The chip designer no one can name, or the dishwasher who became one of the richest people alive? Tell me in the comments. And if you want to see how another immigrant family turned a single grocery store into a quiet empire, the story of Arcadia's billionaire mansions is waiting for you right now. This was Asian Dynasty.